What's going on, YouTube? There are not many cars in the world that say, I made it better than a flagship luxury sedan. They have the size and elegance that really draws attention, which is exactly what BMW is doubling down on for 2020. Of course, we do want to take a moment to specially thank our friends at BMW of Cincinnati North for giving us access to this $112,000 7 Series. And if you're in the market for any new BMW, be sure to stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that said, let's see if the refreshed 7 Series is the ultimate limo. So starting off here on the outside, this is where you'll notice the biggest changes for 2020. Most obviously, of course, is the enlarged grille, which BMW says has grown by 40% since the entire front end is now 2 inches taller. This definitely makes for a more eye-catching look than before, which only grows if you opt for the M Sport design, and furthermore if you choose the fully blacked out option. As far as the headlights, they've actually gone the opposite way and slimmed down. Plus, the running light design has been updated to the squared off look like in the X7. Moving on to the side, since the US only gets the long wheelbase version, they will all be over 17 feet long. And then as far as the back, the updates are fairly subtle, with really sleek new LED tail lights and larger trapezoidal exhaust outlets. Of course, just like in the front, going with the M Sport will make the lower areas more aggressive. It is also worth mentioning that even though this is the plug-in electric version, it still has the same styling as the other models. But overall, BMW took a page from Rolls-Royce and made the 7 Series more attention-grabbing in addition to its already stately design. Now heading up to the wheels, our model stays on the more conservative side of things with these optional 19-inch alloys. But of course you can get contrast alloys on the M Sport models. As expected for the mirrors, they are fully loaded with heating, auto dimming, power folding, and blind spot monitoring. And then as far as all your other safety systems, it has all the latest and greatest as you would expect from the flagship. Auto pre-collision braking with pedestrian detection and rear cross traffic alert are included across the board. And then adding the driving assistance professional package gives you adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, the ability to automatically steer around obstacles, and a hands-free autonomous driving system that works on highways up to 37 miles per hour. These systems are right in line with what other flagships offer. And finally, the last thing to look at is the fuel tank, which is 20.6 gallons in most of the models, except for this plug-in, which has a 12.1 gallon tank. That means the range of this car is 282 miles, including the 16 miles of full electric range. And of course, it does request premium unleaded fuel. Well guys, that's it for the outside. So now let's get to the part you really want to see, the elaborate executive interior. So of course, as you would expect, every 2027 Series does come standard with BMW's intelligent entry system. You have their standard key fob, however it's upgraded a little bit versus the cheaper models since the buttons themselves are metal as well as all the side. A remote start is available optionally as well. Now as far as getting inside the vehicle, it's very simple. You just reach behind the handle since there's a sensor, and when you do, the power mirrors will come out. Alright, so checking out the cabin of the refreshed 2027 Series. As you can tell right off the bat, it really makes a strong first impression. Now of course a big part of being a flagship is having exactly what you want And indeed, you can customize this interior to have exactly what you want. So when you start out on the base model, you're going to start with Dakota real leather in black, Canberra beige, ivory, mocha, or cognac. Or, like this model here, you can upgrade to the quilted Napa leather that comes in the same colors except for an extra Zagora beige. But that's not all. There's still another package called the individual merino leather. That's the highest tier of leather. And that comes in its own set of colors: Amarone brown, Fiona red, smoke white, cashmere, black, and tartufo. So definitely some exotic ones up in there. And then finally, you do have 8 different wood trims to choose from. I'm not going to list them all out, but I will specifically mention the new American dark oak and gray poplar options for 2020. Now turning over here to your door trim, obviously it is absolutely stunning. You have leather across all the armrests as well as above it and across the very top of the door trim. And we do have the real wood through here as well as full aluminum door handle. Obviously all 4 of our windows are one-touch automatic. And then down here below you will find your 2-person memory seating as well as the buttons to activate the massaging functions. Coming to the seat itself, it is 20-way power adjusting across the board. You do have the massaging, which I already mentioned as an option, but all of them come with the 4-way lumbar support, the adjusting bolsters, as well as the power thigh extension. And like I already mentioned, this is the Napa leather. Definitely feels very nice. You do have the quilted design, which comes all the way through here and down, and definitely looks and feels very stunning. Of course, like many flagship vehicles, you do have soft closing doors. If you fail to close the door all the way, you'll pull it closed for you. Now, as far as the actual design, things have not changed too much for 2020, so that means you do continue to have phenomenal materials. So across even the extreme upper part of the dash, you do have real leather with a really nice color contrast stitching. And then when you come down to the middle, you got more real wood trim and some aluminum trim as well. Even these lower areas here are also leather padded with stitching. And way down here is also leather padded along where your knees will touch. And of course, as you would expect, everything does fit together very, very well. Of course, you do have push button start. And when you press it, you will see the standard 12.3-inch display fire up. Of course, that's the unique thing about having the electric version, is that when you fire up, you don't actually have the engine start. Now, as far as the gauges over here, of course, this is the latest and greatest BMW 12.3-inch Live Cockpit Pro system. It is fully reconfigurable, so you can just press on this little button on the end here and switch through different types of information. And when you change your drive modes, additionally, the whole design can change. I do want to also mention that little sensor up there at the top. That's actually monitoring to make sure you're alert when the autonomous driving systems are active. As far as the flashing you're seeing on the camera right now, that's an effect of the camera's frame rate. It doesn't actually do that in real life. Also, when you opt for the premium package, you will find a head-up display. And if you use the button on the steering wheel, you can go and activate all the extra buttons over here, and you can kind of cycle through different functions as well. Now, coming back to the steering wheel, of course all models do have electric power assisted steering with a beautiful leather wrapped steering wheel. There is a difference between the luxury and M Sport models, so you get the M steering wheel, of course, on the M Sports versus this luxury model with 4 spokes. As far as all the buttons, they are fully made of aluminum. So you've got your adaptive cruise control buttons and safety systems over here. And then on this side, you've got your audio, phone, and voice command buttons. You will always find rain sensing wipers on every 7 Series as well. As far as the steering wheel itself, they will always be power adjusting as well as standard heating. However, when you go for the rear luxury seating package, that's going to actually throw in heated armrest as well in the front and in the back. Now moving on to interior storage, you do have plenty, as you would expect from a pretty big sedan like this. So starting out with your center console, you can just open it up like that. And as you can see, it is fairly large, nicely felt lined. You do have a little removable tray down here at the bottom. And you will also find your 12-volt outlet as well as your USB Type-C port. Up in the front here, you've got some more storage. So you can just slide back this wood. It slides back in 2 different stages. So you can slide back for just the cup holders, or you can keep pushing back to reveal the wireless phone charger. Now for 2020, this has now been relocated up here to a more convenient place. Now coming back to your shifter, of course the 7 Series does have the typical BMW shifter. However, since we have the executive package, you'll actually notice they are finished in a ceramic finish for both the shifter as well as the control knob. But as far as the actual operation, it is totally unaltered. So you just press the unlock button right here and pull back for drive. And then you can bump over here to the left to shift manually with the right from this stick here, or via the paddle shifters, which are present even here on the plug-in electric model. Then for reverse, you're just going to go up the opposite direction. And when you do, you will notice the standard 360-degree camera system fire up. As you can see, you have both the traditional view as well as a 360-degree view. But the coolest feature is when you press here and you hit the 3D view, you will go into a 3D view of the entire car, and you can just use your little control knob to basically go all around the vehicle in every direction and kind of see it as if you were a drone or something floating above it. And it definitely gives you a really cool perspective. So there's no excuse to ever back into anything inside of this 7 Series. And then for park, you're just going to press the P up top. Now as far as all the buttons down here around the shifter, you will see we have some redesigned modes down here for 2020. So you've got a sport mode, a hybrid mode, and you also have an electric mode to lock the plug-in here into only electric until it finishes depleting the battery. You also have an adaptive mode, which will just adapt based on how you're driving as well as different environmental factors. And then back a little bit more, you have another button right here. This goes to battery control, and this is a feature that allows you to control the battery a lot better than last year. So basically what you can now do is you can select a certain percent that you want to keep the battery at. So say right now we're at 100% charge, but when I get to 70, I want the engine to go ahead and turn on, so I keep that 70% for another occasion. So this will just be able to keep that battery in that desired range. And then you do have a few extra buttons as well as for your air suspension, and then your electronic parking brake and brake hold feature. Now moving on up here, we have our standard 4-zone automatic climate controls. As you can see, it's kind of a unique mixture of both physical and digital controls. So all of these buttons right here are actually touch sensitive, so you can just go up on them. There are still like little ridges in it, so you can actually feel them physically, but it is a touch sensitive touch screen. You can see that change right up there. So that's pretty cool. Additionally, we have this optional feature called with the air ambience package, and what this does is just give us a fragrance system. So we don't have the cartridges actually installed right now, but you would be able to choose between 2 different scents and then different types, strength of those scents. And then finally right here you will find the standard 3-stage seat heating. And then if you go for the executive package, you will also have 3-stage seat ventilation. But anyways, now that brings us up here to our audio system. The standard system is a 600-watt 16-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. That's what we have. However, if you're a really huge audiophile, there's a 1400-watt 16-speaker Bower & Wilkins Diamond Series audio system available. But let's go ahead and sample this standard audio system. We do also have gesture controls on board, so we can just make this motion. Yeah, this may be the standard sound system, but it definitely does not sound basic. But anyways, that now brings us up here to our brand new iDrive 7.0 system. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. So this is the brand new version of iDrive called iDrive 7.0. So to start out with, one of the big features of this system is that it can be controlled in several different ways. Now, in addition to your regular controller knob, which BMWs have always had, you now have the ability to control via touchscreen. So there's now a touchscreen up here. You also have the ability to use voice commands. So as far as the software itself, we'll start out with our home screens. You now have up to 10 reconfigurable home screens. So each of these you can choose what type of things to fill in for your tiles. And moving beyond that, you have several shortcut buttons down here on the side. This represents the main sections of the iDrive system. However, most importantly, Apple CarPlay is on board for every vehicle with iDrive 7.0. It's the wireless Apple CarPlay in this specific car. It's free for 1 year. However, there is no Android Auto at this time. Now moving on up, of course, as you would expect, we do have an auto-dimming mirror with your 3 HomeLink universal remotes built into the bottom of it. And we do also have a dual panel panoramic moonroof as standard equipment as well. Now it's a little hard to see, but we actually have what's called the Sky Lounge system. It basically has these little points that light up with light at night and kind of look like stars in the sky. And that comes through the executive package. But overall, I have to say the cabin of the 2027 series is simply stunning. I mean, when it comes to these flagship vehicles, it's hard to think of anything else you could possibly want. I mean, absolutely everything is stuffed into this cabin. It's beautifully executed with materials and finishes, and it is something that's going to really wow you and impress anybody that's with you. But anyways, now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason, who will check out the very important rear areas.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and check out the rear seat of the 2020 BMW 7 Series. Now this is one of the biggest features of this model because it obviously has tons of space. Its technical rating is 44.4 inches of rear legroom and 39 inches of rear headroom, which obviously is a massive amount of space, and it's even bigger than a lot of its rivals like the Mercedes S-Class and Lexus LS. Now turning over here to the door trim, it is of course beautifully designed as you would expect out of a flagship. So it is covered with leather from head to toe, so you have a completely leather wrapped armrest all through here, and it is even leather wrapped here on the top portion. Now down below that you will notice some of your features. So this is a pop-out ashtray. And below that you have your window switch, which is a fully automatic, of course, as well as both of your power rear sunshade controls. These are actually included in the premium package. And further below that you have your rear window sunshade as well. And further below that you will notice that we do have some door storage. And you will even notice that there is 2-person memory seats here in the rear, as well as a massaging function since we have the luxury rear seating package. Now turning over to the seats themselves, of course they are a beautiful design. You have this quilted, beautiful leather, and it is extremely soft and supple as you would expect. Now in terms of features, of course the 7 Series is going to have a boatload of them, so we'll start out with the ones here in the center area. Now of course you will have rear air vents, standard across all models, and it is also here on your B-pillar as well. Now coming down, of course you do also have your own climate controls. So all you have to do is push the automatic button, and it will fire up, and you have all 4 zones of adjustment, so each rear passenger back here can have their own adjusted temperature, fan speed, and zone. Now further below that you will also find the 3-stage ventilated and 3-stage heated rear seats, which are on the executive in the luxury rear seat package. Now down below that you will even find another storage area, and if you push this you will find a 12-volt power outlet as well as 2 USB ports. These are actually the Type-C charging USB ports. And turning over here to the center console area here, this does drop down with a ton of features because our model does have the luxury rear seating package, which was what I was talking about earlier. Now, of course, you will notice that you do have a really nice and large armrest here. It is leather wrapped, and there is some storage inside that is felt lined. Now, the biggest feature about that luxury rear seat package I keep mentioning is the addition of this 7-inch tablet. So basically, this is like what you've seen in probably other large luxury vehicles like the Audi A8 and Lexus LS. And basically, it's a tablet that controls all of the rear features back here. So basically, if you want to turn it on, you push this little power button, and it will turn on. And it is worth noting that you can also eject the tablet. So this is one of the benefits of having the tablet as opposed to just a regular screen, because you can control it out here, and each rear passenger you just pass it along and have them adjust their things, so it doesn't necessarily have to be in the center console. Now in front of that, you do have pop-out cup holders, and beside that you will also find your power adjustment, which is also included in that package. So each rear seat back here has their own adjustments, so you can really adjust any and every seating configuration you could ever want. You even, like I mentioned, you do also have the massaging functions as well as reclining. Now up top we do have a gorgeous headliner. It is covered in beautiful Alcantara, as well as a panoramic moonroof. And in front of that, we do have a vanity mirror with an LED light. And also, as a part of the interior design package, our model has these wood assist grips, as well as the coat hook, and some LED lighting back here. And I do want to take a moment to mention the executive lounge seating package, which is available, but our model does not have it. And basically what this adds is the extra level of rear opulence. So it will give the seat here, it will give it full reclining abilities, so you can have a pop-out recliner come up. And it also has pop-out folding tables, so if you need to get work done, this is your option. Now, I do also want to mention here on the floor, we do have some additional headrest. So if you don't find these, which they're already really super comfortable, but if you don't find them comfortable enough to take a nap, you can really just snap this extra headrest on, and it serves as basically a built-in pillow for you. Now, in addition to that, you may notice that our model does not have the tablet screens integrated into the back, and that is because that is also in that executive lounge package, and basically that would add two dual 10-inch tablet screens to the back for your rear seat entertainment. And of course, in terms of space, this car has nothing to complain about. So behind Drew's sitting position, I have about a foot, maybe 2 feet of space between my knees and the seat back, and of course my feet can easily slide up under the seat. And that is partially due to this vehicle being only available in the long wheelbase form now. So this is, as long as it's going to get 45 inches of rear legroom, is a ton of space. But overall, I am extremely impressed by the 7 Series rear seat. I had a lot and very high expectations going into it because this is a flagship vehicle, and I still leave very impressed because this car has a ton of features back here. These seats are extremely comfortable, and I really think that it's going to satisfy the needs of any owner that they could ever have. Now, coming around to the trunk, of course it is power, so all you have to do is locate the button under the lid and it will open right up. Now, once inside of the 7 Series trunk, you will find 18.2 cubic feet on the regular models. However, you will notice that on this electric model, the floor is actually flat back here because the needed room for the electric components. So basically it is reduced to 14.8 cubic feet. Now, with that said, that is still larger than a lot of the rivals like the Audi A8, and BMW was nice enough to give you a little storage under the floor as well. So you have a little storage area down here, as well as some cubbies over here. Now, coming over to the passenger seat, of course it is a lovely, lovely design, and it is also 22-way power adjusting on this model. It's the same way adjustments as the driver's, and of course you do have massaging on this side as well. Now, coming over to this side, you will find that you also have 2-person memory, just like the rear seats and the driver's seat. Now, of course, in front of the passenger, we do have opulent materials. So we have a leather padded dashboard, some wood going through that. And down below this, we have a good sized glove box that is nicely felt lined. And of course, your glove box is also leather wrapped, and it's all the way leather wrapped all the way down here, as you would expect. Well, anyway, that sums up all of the opulent rear areas of the refreshed 2027 series. So let's go ahead and get on the road and see how this plug-in electric performs.
Alright, so now we'll go ahead and talk about this car's powertrains. Now, there are 3 different options. There's the 40i, the 50i, and this 45e. So you start with the turbo inline 6 in the 40i. Then for the 50i, you go to a turbo V8. However, of course, we have the electric one, so I'll focus on that. For 2020, what BMW has done, they've upgraded all the system components, and they've also switched the engine out from a turbo 4-cylinder to a smoother, more powerful turbo inline 6. So, altogether, this car produces 389 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque, which is 67 more horsepower total than last year, so definitely a big benefit there. At the same time, they have a higher capacity lithium-ion battery pack on board, and that's now good for an extended range of 16 miles. So you can run around on full electric driving for 16 miles, and then you switch over to the gas-powered engine. As far as the transmission, you do have an 8-speed automatic transmission, and standard all-wheel drive on this electric model. And 0 to 60 is actually 4.9 seconds, which is, of course, very fast for a big limo like this. And it's also just as fast as the 40i, so the electric components don't slow it down any. And then finally for your fuel economy, this is rated at 56 mpge, which is the EPA's way of rating hybrid electric vehicles. But as far as on the gas engine only, that's going to be 22 combined for the mileage for when you're driving on just the gas engine. I'm definitely fascinated to see how this will drive, so let's go ahead and take it on a quick spin. Alright, so taking off in the plug-in electric 7 Series. Definitely a unique sensation compared to the gas-powered model because everything is completely silent. It also really it takes off quite well. That instantaneous electric torque really feels good. You can just kind of feel that punch back in your seat as soon as you start to roll onto the throttle. Alright, so as far as your pricing, this car comes in several different versions, of course. So with your 40i, 740i, that's going to be $86,450. Your next option up the rung is going to be this model, the 45e. That starts at $95,550. It does come standard with all-wheel drive, though. The next thing up the rung is your V8 powered 750i. That's going to start at $102,650. And then finally, the top of the line model, the M760i, that's powered by a V12. And that starts at an absolutely ridiculous $157,700. So as you can see, there is a really large range that this model can be equipped in. Now, as with all BMWs, you customize things basically to your liking, a la carte. So on this specific model, we have the Driver's Assistance Pro package, the Interior Design package, Luxury Rear Seating package, Premium package, Executive package. We have the Interior Design package, 19-inch wheels, Ambient Air package, front massaging seats, and then finally the destination charge of $995 for a total of $112,095, which of course is a ton of money, but also pretty much right in line with all the competition.
Well guys, we've enjoyed watching one of the first in-depth looks at the 2020 BMW 745e iPerformance. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.